Comparoni has requested to be excused for this meeting.
Move to excuse Comparoni.
Second.
In red?
Move to excuse President
Camperoni
Rudd.
and, do we need both at the same time?
You can do
Camperoni
them
and
both
Rudd?
at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Motion.
Okay,
The
has
second,
to be-
second for both.
thank you.
And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we do have a call to the public on our agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to other items. And item A, review and discuss proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget. Mr. McCleary.
Your Honor, members of council, I'll go real quickly through just the general information, and then we can get into discussing specifics of general fund revenues and the general fund departments. Council's been presented with the village manager's proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget in accordance with section 8.2 of the Lake Orion Village Charter and the Michigan Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, Public Act 2 of 1968 as amended. Council, as you know, you will be holding budget work sessions this afternoon, also on April 20th, April 22nd, and April 23rd at 4 o'clock p.m. to review all of the funds of the village. As far as general fund revenues, this is just good general information to have as we start getting into discussions on the general fund. The total taxable value of the village increased from $199,003,290 in 2025 to $211,191,000 for 2026. After DDA tax capture, the village's portion of taxable value for 2026 is $163,518,770. Total general fund revenues for fiscal year 2026-27 are estimated to be just over $2.5 million, an increase of 3.5% from the current year. The proposed budget accounts for a Headley millage rollback of 0.9828, which means that maximum allowable millage rates for each tax levy, that includes general operating and the 2 police millages, will decrease by 1.78%. The budget assumes that the current general operating millage levy of 9.7844 mils will continue for the next fiscal year. The police millages will be rolled back. The general operating millage for police will roll back, so we'll have to make that up in the Headley override millage. And because there have been additional requests from the police department in their budget, the millage, Headley override millage will actually increase. And when we get into the police budget next week, we'll talk more about that. The charges to the DDA for handling and auditing of their funds is proposed in this budget in accordance with the policy previously adopted by council. I will be asking you to adopt a new policy because one of the things we did not address in this past year's policy was the cost of tax collections. And so the village is assuming the total cost of tax collections for this year, but I will be proposing to council that we include in our policy for future years that the DDA has to pay for their portion of the tax collection costs that are charged to us by Orion Township. The water and sewer fund administrative fees will increase by 5%. that amount is budgeted in the general fund revenues. General assumptions in preparation of the budget. Wages are proposed to increase by 3% for all union and non-union employees. However, as council is aware, our union contracts are expiring on June 30th, and we are getting ready to negotiate new contracts with both of our unions, POAM for police and AFSCME for public works employees. So the result, whatever comes out of the, whatever the results are from those negotiations could change those wage amounts. Health insurance benefit costs are expected to increase by 15%. We saw actually a 17% increase this past year. Dental, optical, and life insurance and disability benefit costs are expected to increase by 5%. Contractual services costs are expected in many instances to increase by 5%. And then many of the other expenses in the budget, we have assumed an inflationary increase of 3%. Staffing is proposed to remain at the current levels for the upcoming year. And with that, are there any questions in the general assumptions for budget preparation?
George?
So I got a couple questions. First of all, what are we going to do process-wise this year that's different than the last 3 years that I've either participated or witnessed this budget process? We attempted to provide targets, which we decided not to do that. We said that we were going to come into the budget workshops and we were going to work through that in the budget workshops, which are now. I know that in those discussions you said that you had much experience with working the budgets and getting money out of the budgets. You stated that in a couple of instances you had to take $4 million out of budgets. And so I'm curious what we're doing differently this year. What's out there that in the preparation process that's different? And have you identified areas where we can reduce our costs, for example, and put money into the infrastructure that we talked about earlier?
Well, we had these discussions previously. I was clear to the council that any budget reductions that the council may wish to make, we will work through those as we go through each department or fund of the budget. Those are open to council discussion. In preparing the proposed budget, it is my assumption was that we are maintaining the status quo for our operations for the most part. There are some items that are new in this budget that we have to accommodate for some capital expenses, although I did not plug much into the budget. We will be talking about the capital plan and identifying what our priorities are. There will be changes, I'm sure, to the CIP. And then we'll have to determine which projects are priorities and plug those into the budget.
Okay, so if we're saying that we're going to do status quo, which, okay.
My budget assumes status
Yeah,
quo.
but it sounds like the process is going to be status quo also. So are we going to maintain a list? For example, I'm going to question lifeguard expenditures. So is that going to get captured on a list for future discussion? Is there an expectation that we're going to decide that tonight? How are we going to do this?
We are going to take it department by department. And when we get to the Parks and Recreation Department of the General Fund, that's where you're referring to those expenses.
Right.
And I would assume that at that point, council members will discuss any changes you want to make to that department's expenses. And if the council determines that you want to eliminate lifeguards or make any other changes, that would be the appropriate time to discuss those. Council will then After we discuss each department or fund, the council will have provide us with a consensus of what changes you want to see. We keep notes of those, and then those changes are made for the final proposed budget.
But so then your expectation is we would make those decisions tonight and next week? Each of those?
As we go along in each department.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand up front where we're going.
Yes, Eric?
Yeah, so back to the general fund revenue numbers, I just want to make sure I'm understanding one thing. So I see roughly 6% increase. Then when you subtract out the DDA capture, it's the 3.5% increase. Can you help me understand the 1.78% Headley? I get the Headley rollback, but what I'm trying to get at is that, would I subtract that and come away with about 1.7% change of what I'd say our true discretionary general fund revenue growth is? Or,
So with the Headley rollback, our maximum millage rate for general operating is about 10.02 mills.
Yeah.
We're not levying the full amount. We
Okay.
are less than that. So this year, the Headley rollback does not affect general fund.
Okay.
At the point that we are levying the maximum millage, like we are with the police operating millage, any rollback affects that, but general fund is not affected this year.
got it. So I can just stick with the 3.5% and that's the,
3.5% is for total general fund revenues. We're seeing a 3.5% increase.
yep, great,
Yep.
thank you.
Yes, Mr. Lamb?
Thank you. Hey, Darrell, so I'm checking your facts here. So the village taxable value increased by $12 million in the last year. So I assume this growth has to do with new development and inflation.
New development, inflation, and any uncapped property values. So
Yes,
if a
I
property
understand.
was sold
Yes.
within the past year, their property value, taxable value reverts to the SEV value of that property.
So how much revenue do we typically generate from $12 million for police and general fund? I was just going to use that round number of 12 million instead
From
of,
12 million?
yeah, that's the growth in the taxable value of the village. So what additional incomes did we get this year?
And this is rough without me adding up the actual millage rates.
Right,
but,
just go to the nearest,
Probably about 12.5
yeah.
mills. $150,000.
Okay, 100, so our growth in revenues, you said $150,000. And then, do you know what percent growth the 12 million is on the total of the village? Was that 12 million growth over the 211, or is it 12 million over the 199,000?
12, it's an additional 12 million over 199 million.
Okay, so that's about, the growth is then about,
So the total for the upcoming year, total taxable value is 211 million.
Yeah,
yeah, so
That's
the,
right.
so the
Six.
total, what is that?
that's where I was going, 6%.
That's what I thought. wasn't going to use your figure, though. I wanted to arrive at my own figure. So about 6%. So the growth in the village as a whole is about 6%?
Yes.
Okay. And then I calculated the taxable value growth in the DDA district was, it was 42 million. The taxable value of the DDA district last year was $42,223,420. This year, the DDA share of the of our taxable value is $47,672,230. That means that the DDA district taxable value captured is $5,449,000 more.
Correct.
So they're going to get 25 mils or 24 mils?
24 point some mils.
So what's 5 million?
Actually, it'll be 25 point some mils because the proposal in this budget is to increase the Headley override millage for police. And the DDA captures 47 million of that additional millage.
So they're going to get a new revenue increase of $136,000 roughly for the year. I just did the math. I did 25 times 5,449,000.
Closer to 120.
Closer to 120?
I'm sorry, closer to, for the additional police millage?
No, I was talking about the DDA's revenue increase this year. I've got it at 136,000 based on
Yeah,
it.
that would be
Close.
about right.
So that's 136,000. I divide that by last year's 42,223,420 equals 3.2%. So the DDA's, so the taxable value growth in the DDA was 3.2%. And in the rest of the village as a whole, it was 6%. Okay, and then I have the numbers. The DDA is going to get an extra 136,000 this year. The village is going to get an extra 150 million this year. Okay, those are all.
Want to make sure we understand this. So we're seeing about a $12 million increase in taxable value.
Yeah.
That 12 million, a portion of that is, 5 million of that is captured by the DDA.
Oh, did I do the numbers
Yeah,
wrong? So
yeah,
let's
I
go
think so.
back then. So you said here that the village's portion of the taxable value was 211, was 163.
Correct.
Okay, so what we don't have is the number from what was the village's taxable value last year. What was the
It
increase?
was 199 million
No, from the.
for the current year.
Less the DDA capture.
It was, I think it was about 157 million.
Okay. So it's still the same, it's around 157, so it's about an 8 million capture. So what you're saying is that half of the total growth in taxable value is captured by the DDA. So the village is only going to capture, so the village is going to have an additional revenue of 150. The DDA is going to get almost as much as the village gets. They're going to get 136,000. Those numbers we calculate those correctly, correct?
I believe so,
So the
yes.
village as a whole is going to get an additional $150,000 this year.
Both inside and outside.
And the DDA, which is a little group downtown, is going to get a $136,000 increase.
Approximately, yes.
So they got almost as large a tax revenue increase as the whole village got.
Almost, slightly
Okay.
less.
All right,
but
thank you very much, sir. Thank
Slightly
you.
less.
I understand the Headley and the three, and then the.
About 7 million in additional taxable value to the village and about 5 million additional to the DDA.
Yeah. And that's because all those new projects and stuff are in the DDA district, capture district.
I would assume so, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Eric?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, because I was kind of going there in my head too. So percentage growth wise, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Overall percentage growth, 6%. If our village effective percent was 3.5, does that mean that 120, 130,000 DDA, did they get a higher percentage increase?
I'd have to do the
Or-
calculations to
yeah.
know that
It seems-
specifically.
Like it would be in my head if overall it was 6, we're at 3.5. I don't know, yeah, I'd have to do the math, but feels like it would be maybe 9% or something, but, all right. No, it helps just for this general fund level set here. Thank you.
Any other comments on the revenue end of things? Next on the list is village council, and according to this, there are no changes proposed for the village council budget? Is that,
No changes proposed
Okay.
to village council. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on any of those line items, though.
So where are we?
Page 2?
I was still on page 1. Okay, so, because I got some questions on revenue yet.
oh, okay, that's what I asked, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I thought we were still in the preliminary.
Okay, no, so back to revenue questions.
Yeah, so boat dock pass fees. The fees that we collect on the boat dock fees, that money just goes into the general fund?
Yes.
So why wouldn't those very specific fees go to pay for the required maintenance and upgrade and whatnot that's required on those docks to make them safe?
They do. At the time that we make any improvements to the boat docks themselves, general fund picks up that cost.
So, okay, so what the Parks and Rec Committee has requested should get covered by that then?
I'm sorry, say that
Well,
again?
the Parks and Rec Committee made a recommendation to be put into the budget last year. In October, I think, was the requirement. And we requested some things for the boat docks that we felt were required to make them safe and usable. So that'll be covered?
We did not include anything for boat dock improvements.
So I thought that's why we asked Parks and Rec to submit that in October so that it could be worked into the budget.
So under our policy, any recommendations that the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee makes for budget requests have to be sent to me directly.
They were. I mean, we sent a letter to you directly. Rosemary did.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll have to take a look at that, but we can make changes if we need to.
But just, I mean, that was that was part of the discussion of the budget reviews last year was that we didn't, I say we, because I'm the rep on the Parks and Rec Committee, but we didn't do that the right time, and we said we had to submit it by October and submit it to you, and we prioritized and all the rest of that, just like we were asked to
Okay,
do.
well,
and
when we get to
it was
Park-
supposed to be worked into the
When
budget.
we get to the Parks and Rec Department, we can discuss that. Let's stick to the general fund revenue, so, because we've got a lot to get through.
So the reimbursement fee for the DDA and there's two reimbursement fees. And I guess I could have looked at the DDA portion, but are those one for one with the DDA? Is the DDA in agreement with those? Or are those village numbers and we've yet to get consensus?
These are based on the policy that was previously adopted by council. They're not subject to negotiation.
Stan, can
I want,
I ask you a question, please? Are we going to?
I want to make sure he's done.
Oh, it's about, okay.
Sure, then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Did you have enough?
Well, it's so they haven't been agreed to, so we might end up in the same kind of discussions like we did last year, all the back and forth with the
Council
DDA.
does not need agreement from the DDA. The council sets this fee
Okay.
under state statute. There's no negotiation. The only thing that is stated in state statute is that the fee has to be reasonable. And the council determines what reasonable is.
Okay. And are we still on page 1?
Can I ask a question about the, real quick, Stan, about the order? Are we going through the general summary, the general thing first, and then do the detailed line item budget second? Or are we gonna question the line item detail on each of these little categories? What? I'm getting confused because you're asking questions.
My
answer
assumption was
questions.
we were going to the detail and
And
We're
then-
gonna go through the
for any
detail.
questions
I thought
about
that's where
line
we were.
items.
Yeah.
I
We
thought
usually
that's
do
where we
page
were.
by
Oh, then I'm just gonna go
Department
right to
by
the spreadsheet and ignore all this stuff and look at my spreadsheet then? Is that what
You-
I can't jump back.
Yes, you should be looking at the spreadsheet now.
Okay, all
The
right,
executive summary is just to give you a general overview,
Okay.
but I would assume council members have questions on specific
okay.
line
then
items.
I'm gonna, sorry, George, I just wanted to know where I was, I'll go right to the spreadsheet then so I can follow you. I'm sorry.
Okay, so those were my questions on the revenue section, the first half of page 1.
Okay, so you're set
I'm good
there.
at revenue.
Okay. Any other,
Yes, I just had, I'm sorry, I didn't know we were gonna do the
Okay.
detailed spreadsheet. I thought we were doing the overview first. I'm sorry.
okay,
Yeah, I'm just gonna go through these reimbursements, property taxes, dog licenses, state grants, Act 48, fees. Yeah. Sorry, that's why I requested that Excel spreadsheet, Sonia, as I was trying to collapse the columns from the 23, 24, 25, 26, so I could have the current figures right next to their description. Okay, because it's useful to me to look at the current projected budget without having to look through, I get confused. Oh. 62. Okay, so just to be clear, I want to make sure I get my numbers here on the reimbursement fees. So, yeah, we settled on the admin fee, the DDA's admin fee, 2627, 78,000.
The admin fee for DDA, I do want to note that 69,000 does not include the costs that will be charged to the DDA for their tax collections, because that's part of their operating costs. So that will be a cost that the DDA has to budget themselves. This year, they disputed the tax collections fee. I think their portion was $12,000 of the 26,000.
Nine, it was like.
9,000.
Yeah.
And they disputed that because they said that it wasn't covered in our policy that we had, that council had adopted this past year. I agreed with that, and so the village covered the full cost of tax collection. But the new policy that I will be presenting to council specifically states that the DDA is responsible for its proportionate share of the tax collection fee.
Yeah, I'm good with the revenues. It looks like the revenues increased a little bit more than the general tax revenues increased more than your costs. So the average percentage of the cost increase for like the administrative fees were those 3%?
Ask that again? I'm sorry.
Okay. The administrative fees to the DDA, those were based on percentage increase or based on actual?
They're based on the policy, and so
What percent?
it's divided up between each department. Like for mine,
Yeah.
my department, mine only is 5% of personnel costs, not my.
Okay, so it's a percentage basis.
For many of the other departments, it's 10% of the total budgets, except for general activities. We had to back out several items that do not apply to the DDA. That's all outlined in the policy that was adopted.
Right, so the estimated garbage collection fees, those are based on your estimate of the increase or on the actual contract?
They're based on the actual contract.
Okay,
For the new
contract.
fee for this upcoming fiscal year.
Yeah.
Based on about 1,220 rubbish collection customers. So yeah, it reflects the actual increased fee for the upcoming year.
And so the other thing I noticed is the state grant monies, state shared revenues haven't noticeably increased since 2023. So we're not getting like a every year increase in revenues from the state of Michigan. How do
What
you-
the legislature likes to do is constitutional portion of state revenue sharing, that's set. The legislature cannot touch those amounts, and they're based on sales tax collections. And then there's a statutory portion, which is much smaller, but they increase and decrease that at their will. So if constitutional portion goes up, there are times when the legislature will decrease the statutory portion to limit the amount that we get for the statutory portion to 1%, 2%, whatever.
Right, so my
But
question
basically,
was,
it's
it
flat.
looks like we don't get any growth in contributions from the state
Not
for
really.
years. Yeah, they
Not
don't,
really.
so we're not getting, the state's not, you know, as we're taxing more, we're not getting the same kind of proportional 3% cut from the state. The state's, you know, we get more from the citizens every year. We raise their taxes 3% or so every year, but the state's not giving us 3% or so every year. That stays flat. So we're losing revenue in comparison to everything else. Okay, and then the marijuana.
I know you can't read the detail of it, but this is a chart that shows our state revenue sharing over the past
10?
10 years.
10, yeah.
And you'll see they're
Flat as
relatively
hell.
flat.
Yeah, flat as hell. And then the last one to bug you about is the marijuana, $50,000 a year we get from the marijuana. Where does that come from again? Can you,
That comes from the state marijuana licensing fees. And then those monies, the state keeps a portion of it and redistributes a portion back to those communities that allow for marijuana licenses. We currently have only one license. Under our policies, we can have two. And the amount that we receive fluctuates based on the number of communities that provide licenses, how many total licenses there are, the amount of revenue that the state receives. So we've seen it go all the way up to $59,000 per license. It's decreased a little bit. As the market gets saturated, I anticipate that amount is going to decrease even further. So we can't really rely on that as any type of reliable revenue stream. We do the best that we can to try to predict what we're going to receive, but I do tend to budget a little on the low side for those.
yes, so there's a few discretionary items here that, so in 2023-24, the total revenue activity was $2,546,000. And this year, our total revenue activity is $2,537,000. So it's 3 years later. It's 3 years or 4 years? 3?
It's, this represents 4 fiscal years.
Yeah, so in 4 fiscal years, the village has not got a raise as far as on the revenue side of the house. That's how I look at it. So in 4 years, the village has not got any increased revenue, looking at these figures. So we're still producing the same services 4 years later with the same budget.
Yes.
Now, you told me before that we have enough money to run the village, and there's no problem running the village, so.
And we have not increased millage rates during that
Yeah,
time
so
either.
the revenues, yeah, but I'm saying the actual dollars, I look at dollars. So the village has got no new revenue in 4 years. It's been flat. So it's like not getting a raise. I'm good with that. I don't, you know, that's tax dollars is tax dollars, so. Thank you, I'm done with that section, so.
All right, Eric?
Just one last quick question, just because I noticed the interest earnings, 22,000 projected this year, 15,000 requested. Is that another one case of like just fluctuation in balances? So it was estimate or what's
It's
driving?
more an assumption as to what is going to happen with interest rates over the next year by the Fed.
Yep,
It looked like a little bit earlier, interest rates would be continuing to come down as inflation improved and the economy was still humming along. Just very recently, within the past few weeks, the feds have been saying that that projection may change. We may end up keeping interest rates where they are for a while. If they keep interest rates where they are now, we will see a little bit more in interest income, but I budgeted a little low on that
yeah,
side.
keep it conservative, yep, great, thank you.
All right, any other questions for revenue? Sit there, and we kind of already mentioned the village council, there's no change.
Yeah, so I'd like to go on record again saying that we ought to eliminate the wages for village council. I know that was not well received the last time I put it on the table.
As much as some council members may like to do that, the charter requires us to pay
We could change the
village
charter, but
council.
anyway.
You can change the charter, but as long as the charter says that we will pay council
Right.
members $10 per meeting, up to $360 each, with the president receiving $100 more. From an administrative standpoint, we must pay you for each meeting you attend at $10 a
I
meeting.
understand what the charter says. Thank you. I just want to go on record again.
I want 50 grand, George.
Okay.
All right, my expenses for the council probably were 10 times what they paid me, you know? And I used to think I should give them back, so the planning commission gave back their fees. We agreed to not take fees at the planning commission because we only meet, you know, once every 2 months for, you were there, George, when we gave
I
up
know.
fees.
It was my idea.
That was his idea.
You know what I'm saying?
I was the one who put it on the table.
So we gave
Anyway,
up-
we don't need to spend time on it. I just,
Okay, so
I'm
unless
done.
you're giving me, you know, a salary, okay, let's not talk about that.
yeah.
Well, I'll go on record to say that I don't mind getting it because that's what I used to donate back to the police fund and to, you know.
I did too.
Yeah.
I mean, when I,
So I can go either way with it, but,
yeah, when I started on planning commission, I signed the thing and
yeah.
I donated it back, but
But Darwin forced us to take the money and
I
then we had to
remember.
pay taxes on it before we could donate it back. That was kind of sad, but I guess that's how life.
All right, moving on.
We have to pay it to you.
Yeah. Next one on the list, village manager.
so I've got some comments on that, and, you know, I'll hit the general ones first, because this is the first time they come up. So when I look at the cost of employees, and I look at the cost of benefits, we've got $1.451 million budgeted for wages. We've got $404,000 budgeted for pensions, which is about 17% of our cost for benefits. We have $306,000, a little over $306,000 budgeted for health care, which is 14%. And then we've got about $9,200 budgeted for personal vehicle use. So let me start with health care. Again, the current budget, $306,000, a little bit more than that. Of that, $196,800 is 64% for medical coverage alone. That takes the dental and vision and retirees out of it. So that's just for current employees, $196,000. If you look at it from a percentage, that's about 14% of our total tax revenue. And the village covers 100% of the premiums. And if I'm wrong, somebody correct me. We have 3 healthcare plans that are available. 2 of them are considered to be low deductible per IRS, which means they can't have an HSA. They're good plans. In my opinion, we should be looking at healthcare. It's very unusual for an employer to pay 100% of the healthcare cost, and I think you said we plan on, or we're budgeting for 15% increase. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a contribution for healthcare costs and to look at different plans. Are there more cost-efficient plans out there? So I know with my employer, healthcare changed and changed and changed over the years to where it became very, very expensive. Same thing for my wife in the teacher business. And Stan, I'm sure you experienced it also. So I think that one of the things we ought to have on the table, and I don't know that we can make a decision tonight, but healthcare is going to come up again towards the middle part of the year. We're going to be talking about cap limits and whatnot. I think that we ought to be exploring alternatives, not only from what plans we offer, but I think we ought to be looking at alternatives for cost sharing on healthcare.
If I could respond to that, we do look at alternative plans every year. I think this year we looked at 5 different plans for healthcare providers. The Blue Cross option was still the most cost effective. Council has always opted to provide health insurance, pay for health insurance premiums up to the state hard cap limits. Anything over the hard cap limits, employees would have to pay 100% of the additional cost. What we have done every year is, in looking at these plans, we have selected plans that would remain under the hard cap limits so that we could try to prevent employees from having to contribute to health insurance. So this is something we look at every year. The other options for health insurance, publicly funded health insurance contributions is 80%, 20%, and there are a number of employers, municipal employers, who opt for the 80-20. That applies to all premiums. And the third option is to opt out of the limits altogether. So there's a mixture of municipalities who keep with the hard cap limits or go with the 80-20.
Just, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but recognize that on that third option, council, or we as a body, we have the option to choose anywhere from 0 to 100% coverage of the premiums, right? We can select that anywhere from 0 to 100.
That is my understanding.
And that was my understanding reading it also. So my point is
But that requires a supermajority vote of the council.
That's fine. I think it ought to be looked at. I think it's not unreasonable to investigate. I recognize that, last year we looked at 5 plans or whatever, but the plans we landed on are all pretty good plans. I just know from experience, and I suspect others up here also know from experience, that the healthcare coverage that we offer is way, way outside the norm. Way, way outside the norm. And I think it's something that we ought to look at.
I have a question, and I don't remember. Are the health, dental, and vision lumped together,
No,
or are they all separate?
they're separate.
Okay. And is the vision care, because some people don't, I guess some people don't need the extensive vision care as maybe others do. So, vision is always the least expensive of any of it. Dental is much more than the vision, but
Actually, vision is dirt cheap.
it is
And dental-
compared. It
It's
is
like
vision.
So this is what we're paying, $2,000,
Yes.
looking budget, $18,000.
Yeah, the
for
dental is always,
And medical, $200,000, so the vision is
yeah,
dirt cheap.
the vision is always cheap. I couldn't remember if it was all one, like, through the Blue Cross Blue Shield, because I had that with my job, I don't know, for a few years, or a cycle of 3, and I just didn't remember that.
So the dental, let's see. So the dental insurance is let's see. Dental insurance is $46 a month for, $47 per month for a single person. $89 per month for two person, and $155 per month for a family. The vision program is $8.95 per month for single, two person, $15 a month. Family, or I'm sorry, a single parent and children is $15 per month. Family is about $25 per month. Then we have short-term disability. That's based on, short-term disability is based on payroll, so it's not going to be much to you if I give you the fractions, but it's per $10. The unit cost is 37 cents per $10 of payroll. And same with long-term disability. Long-term disability is for each $100, 36 cents.
So to try
I think
not
I
to get
covered
burrowed
everything.
down in the weeds on costs for individuals and whatnot, I don't know, so I asked at the beginning of this, how are we going to move forward? This is certainly nothing that can be decided tonight, other than we can make the decision to look into it and to, come back with some recommendations. And I don't know if we need a motion to do that, but I think we should be doing it.
Eric?
Yeah, I was kind of getting there too. I mean, yeah, my wife's a teacher, was a teacher 30 years, so yeah, we saw the eroding benefits quite a bit. I manage people at work, and that's our number one complaint, unfortunately, is benefits and how much things have changed. And it's a tough balance to try to strike. But I think where we were sort of going, looking at the revenue increase, well, flatline over the last 4 years or so, I think that's, and if I'm doing the calcs right and just looking at this, this is where, okay, so we're seeing revenue flat. Healthcare, I think, is increasing about 15%. The others, dental, contractual stuff, like 3 to 5%. The concern is just that it's outpacing the revenue growth, right? So the worry is that that continues down the road and it starts forming this structural deficit, I guess. So that's where I'm just concerned. I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years, but I think it's that outpacing growth of our flatline revenue that we probably should look at.
Well, keep in mind that you can't look at benefits in a vacuum. You have to look at the total compensation package for an employee. And while we provide pretty good benefits, health insurance, life insurance, short-term, long-term disability, dental, optical, we do not compensate employees from a salary and wage standpoint comparable to our own comparable municipalities. We pay considerably less in salaries and wages. So it's got to be looked at in a totality. You can't look at just healthcare and say we're going to reduce healthcare benefits without looking at the rest of the compensation package. So if the council is willing to work with employees to bring their salaries and wages up to where they need to be. And I can provide you with that data.
So you,
Then we,
and
then
you
I think
did.
we can, then,
You
then
did.
I think we can have discussions.
And that was going to be my comment, because, you know, when we negotiated the health in the schools, it was also based on salaries too. So we would give up maybe a pay raise to get better health coverage. So then that's kind of what you're saying, Darwin, is if we going to change one, we need to look at both. We can't just.
And I'm preparing you for union negotiations.
And that was
Because that's
my
exactly
other
what's going to happen.
comment was
So
the
let's-
timing of that. If we're going to look at the healthcare stuff, then it's got to be timed along with contract negotiations and everything else.
So let's look at it. I mean, I'm willing to look at the whole picture, certainly.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point. And you provided us with that data. I don't have a copy of the chart, but you showed us a chart last year when we talked about raises for folks, and you had a chart that showed for village manager, for clerk, for treasurer and whatnot, and you showed a pay range and where everybody, I'd love, if you have that, I'd love to see it again. I don't think you provided it in hard copy, but I remember you showed us that. But I'd like to have a copy of that, because I'd like to see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, because, and I get it, yeah, I mean, it's just hard going back 4 years and seeing flatline and seeing, I think, you know, at least the couple line items I'm seeing here, some of the wages going up 28%, healthcare, you know, year over year, 15%. These are big increases for a flatline revenue. Like, if my business at work is decreasing or flatline, we can't do wage and benefit increases as a total package. It's, you know, unfortunate, but.
Well, our wages have been increasing each year based on the inflation rate. And probably a little bit less than inflation in some of those years, especially 3 years ago, I think, when we got hit with a 9% inflation rate, and the increase in wages was like 7%.
Yeah.
We've been trying to keep up with inflation, but we don't account at all for merit increases on top of that. So we're just, for the salaries and wages that we are providing to employees currently, we're just keeping up with inflation, or trying to.
Yeah, I get it. The hard part is our revenues aren't keeping up, which
Well,
I think
but we've
puts
been-
the squeeze.
Let me speak.
As Mike
Yeah.
pointed out,
I got more to support you guys.
we have,
Yeah.
with our flat revenues, we've still been able to meet all of our expenses, and then at the end of the year, have money left over. So,
Yeah, true.
Michael?
So I've been listening to you guys bring up some really good issues. And there's some bottom line facts here that Eric pointed out something good, George pointed out something good. The problem here, there's a fail in our system. So I'm going to reiterate. So earlier on, we discussed that our revenues are at $2.5 million, and they've stayed that way for 4 years because of during the most spectacular growth period in, you know, county's economic development, right? So in 2023, this includes this. Now, this isn't just wages. I'm talking about the entire general fund. We're at $2.1 million we spent out of the general fund. That was for all the wages and the cars and everything. And now in 2026, 4 years later, our expenses have risen 18 and 19%, which is like 4.5% a year, to we're at $2.5 million in expenses. I want to congratulate Mr. McCleary on his time here in our village, where with a revenue of, remember his first year here, he bragged about, he saved, you know, he was banking money, okay? And I remember that, you guys might not have been here. And then the next year, we had a huge surplus balance. So now after 4 years, oh, I'm so sorry, please, I'm sorry. After 4 years, our expenses have increased from 2.1 million to 2.5 million. Our revenues have stayed flat at 2.5 million. everywhere else in the county, you know, the state equalized value goes up, and everybody's revenues go up. For some reason, our little village, the general revenues for the village don't go up. And you wonder why. Why are the revenues not going up proportionally to everybody else? And I hate to say this to you guys, but you're looking to cherry pick the benefits off the hardest working people in the village, okay? Because remember, we're living as a vacation here, except for the village staff, okay? And they still use shovels, and they still have, you know, angry citizens, and we keep putting more and more tasks on them with studies and billings and reports. I think that we're barking up the wrong tree going after the people's money, okay? I looked at the wages, and every year we ask, well, how much does the DPW director get? And it says, well, he's at parity at wages, but he's 3 years lagging behind because we haven't, you know, he hasn't been on job or something. Or the police, it's always a struggle even getting people to work in this village because they just come here, they get, as soon as they're a policeman on Lake Orion force, now they're a policeman, and then other people hire them away because now they're trained. So we can barely maintain a police staff. We saw it happen. Thank God the clerk and our staff in the office are either part-time or they're fairly new in their careers, and they work at a very modest pay rate. So I think what's wrong here isn't the fact that our village isn't frugal and the village people and the village manager is not managing our budget. And it finally took an act of God to get the drip in the ceiling fixed because we tore the steeple off. We don't even have the money in the budget to fix our own house. The DPW building has foam in it, foam, where the roof was cut off. They just sprayed foam in there, and they've never fixed it ever because it's not in the DPW budget. And go on endlessly, you know that. We've been all through the village. So what's happening here is there's some strange situation in this village that doesn't allow the village's operating budget to increase with inflation or with economic growth. Mm-hmm. It's clear in the fist that after 4 years, they're right here looking at you, all right? $2.5 million in revenue every year for 4 consecutive, while we watch the buildings torn down, the new stuff come up. And here, look, we have a systematic increase in costs of the village. The gas costs are up. Gas has increased. The village people's benefits, they have, you know, too many benefits, or they're getting paid too much. I think we're barking up the wrong tree on this particular argument about attacking the employees' benefits for cost savings in the village.
Well, then I'll ask the question again, what trees do we bark up? And I know the only tree you want to bark up is the DDA, I get that.
It's the revenue.
But I think we've got a whole budget here to talk about, and so what trees are we going to bark?
Yeah, so the revenue tree has been cut, okay? If this was the township government, and you cut their revenue like this from their TIFs, their TIFs are 0 TIFs. They took empty houses and built factories on them, all up and down Brown Road. So what I'm saying, there's no growth. This village has no growth. There is no growth in the village economically. How are we going to pay our bills? Next year, we're at an even now. Okay, we went from even. The revenues barely meet the expenses in the village. So when Darwin says the village is sound financially, he means that he can maintain the status quo. And what that means is they could probably, you know, start getting a little money here. Okay, do we have money for the parks? We want to cut the lifeguards? Fine. We want to cut the basketball court? Fine. Cut them all. But what I'm saying is there is no revenue here to say, let's cut 10% off of our village because there's nothing to cut. You can't get $250,000 out of the employee wages to get 10%. We don't have enough vehicles, buildings. There's nothing to cut. I'm looking around here, and I don't see anything. So I think we should, personally, I'll leave the village employees' wages alone. I'm sorry I feel so strongly about that, but I call these people all the time and make them work. make them do stuff for me, and I'm content with the employee wages at this point.
Okay, then I'm just curious what it is we're going to do, because everything that I've suggested falls on deaf ears. So I'm looking for other ideas.
I'm going to
So
maybe redirect a little bit, because the comments have been based on the whole thing, and our directive here is to look at the village manager stuff as far as the line items under that.
all right, so I have.
Where does that, and then my other question is, do we go through all this as we're supposed to, and then take a look at you know, the timing of it? When would we look at the total healthcare package and the total wages, and that would be tied in with contract negotiations? So in my mind, that some of this discussion, as valuable as it is, might be better served at a different time.
Yes, the personnel costs, a good part of that is driven through our collective bargaining. There are other areas that we can talk about trying to achieve cost savings. We're not at that point yet. There are other departments that we can have those discussions on. One of those that I think Councilmember Dandelides has talked about is Parks and Recreation, and whether or not we want to continue having the lifeguard program that we have now, or whether we want to eliminate that. That's about $30,000 right there. But those are discussions that I'm hoping that as we move through each department, we can continue to have those discussions.
But it's like when I throw lifeguards on the table, that one gets poo-pooed also. So
Well, we haven't really talked a lot directly about it though either. I mean, but that would come up.
okay, so
In this.
I have two more things under village manager, two specific things that I just want to make sure that there's an awareness out there. I'm looking at the line item for $25,575, and my understanding is that that's a 25% contribution to a retirement account that is based on salaries. It's a straight 25%. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with performance, merit. It's just an automatic cash contribution. In my experience and in my thought, I think that's high. The second one is $8,752. That is for use of a personal vehicle for company business. I think that that's extremely high also, and that goes up by 5% every year regardless. So I just want to make sure that everybody here has the same understanding that that's the kind of thing that we're paying.
Right, and then
We can,
part of my comment on that is that was part of the village manager's negotiated.
Right, I
Thing.
get
Okay,
it, but we
that's-
have opportunity to negotiate that.
Right,
So
right.
if we choose not to, then I guess we choose not to.
But I don't know that decision needs to be made now. That would be,
And again, that's why I raised the question, when are we going to ever talk about this
well,
stuff?
I think when it comes to the contract.
yeah, it's the
But
village
the
manager.
contract doesn't expire, so we never talk about it.
Well, it does expire. We wouldn't negotiate if it didn't
No, it doesn't
expire.
expire.
It doesn't.
Well-
No, it never expires.
It never expires.
So, George, we can talk directly to each other because this is an informal meeting, so I am more than happy to join with you to open a dialogue with the village manager to discuss whether he really needs that much money to drive back and forth to work. And as far as the pension, I don't understand that.
But the contract doesn't say a car to drive back and forth to work. The contract says for use of a personal vehicle.
I said I would be willing to
company
open.
business.
Oh, I'd be happy to support you to open a dialogue with the village manager to discuss those elements of his contract. So if you want to bring it up, or I would be happy to support you to have that discussion. Whether it bears fruit, I'd be happy to, we could do that at it. When would be an appropriate time to put our hands in your pockets?
Listen, I negotiated these items when I came here.
Okay.
Okay? So you can't 3 years later, almost 4 years later, come back and say, well, you know, we negotiated these things in good faith to bring you on board at that time, $85,000 a year, when other communities of this size were paying $120,000 a year, and then now change the rules of the game. I'm not interested.
I
Okay,
understand, but
period. I
also
don't wanna- I
recognize,
don't want to hear any more conversation about my contract.
then at least be truthful, okay? The 25% was not to bring you here. That was a subsequent agreement.
That was
was an
negotiated in
amended.
good faith.
That was
And
amended.
it's,
But
and
you
it's a
said
done,
that was to
and-
bring you here.
and it's a done deal. I'm not willing to open my contract or to renegotiate it. You do what you have to do. I'm not renegotiating my contract. So let's put that discussion to bed, and let's move on.
Let's move on.
That's fine. I'm good with not discussing
You
any
pay
of
for
those.
36 years of experience, and you're not paying nearly enough.
So your answer was this is not the place to talk about that.
My answer is no,
Yeah, I
flat out, no.
That was the same answer last year.
And I hope the rest of my employees with their contracts
keep hearing-
feel the same way, but they have to speak for themselves.
Yeah, I think you make some good points, Michael. And I think those of us, there are a lot of, I saw it with the teaching community, right? For years, pay was frozen, base pay for entry-level teachers dropping, benefits getting worse and worse, and what happens? You have a hard time retaining teachers, they go into industry, you have a hard time finding people who want to go into teaching. Because it makes a lot of sense, right? We want to retain and keep police, DPW administration. I tend to think you're right now. You have to do certain things to keep up, but yeah, if only we had more money to pay the teachers, to pay it, I think that's it. I think it's the top line revenue. We've seen it's not keeping up. Inflation, values, everything's going up, except the revenue side.
I think this tiny little village has done a great job
Yeah.
of doing the best that it can to compensate employees. Because again, compensation is an entire package.
Yeah.
Some of the things are not non-economic, like allowing flexibility by having 4-day work weeks, which we almost lost. These things balance themselves out to make employees want to stay here, even though their wages may be less. But you start engaging in rhetoric like this, you're not going to have anybody working here. Not anybody with any competence. And
We moved past
maybe
that.
that's the goal, I don't know.
I think we're
But-
moving past that. We moved
Okay,
past that,
but-
moving on with
But
our,
I want to, well, no, we're going to discuss this, because I don't appreciate this being brought up in a meeting like this.
well, you said you didn't want to discuss it, so we agreed with you and we dropped it.
But the thing is, we've done a great job
I said so.
managing this community on a very limited
I
budget.
think I just gave you the biggest
And we
accolade
have, my
ever.
point with this statement was not on the wages or benefits. My point with this was, and grow a general fund balance of $1.3 million that you can use, probably 800 to 900,000 of it, for capital improvements. I have said this many times, and it seems not to register with some people. But you have funds to work with. We've got to have those discussions and work our way through them, because there are different requirements for different pots of money. But if we look at it in its totality and we navigate it, whether it's Act 51 funds or general fund reserves or whatever the case may be, these things are workable and they're sustainable if we plan for the long term. But we've got to work through each of these items. But we have money available. We have $500,000 in our major street fund that can be used for street improvements. But we've got to work through these and have a dialogue about how this works, how it all fits together. We can't be attacking each other. And that's what ends up happening every time we have a discussion on this stuff. It ends up being the village manager versus some council members, and it's not productive. We can address, we can
So how do
we
we
can
get,
achieve
so how do
a
we get
lot
some of those
what needs
things,
to be
how do we get
achieved.
some of those things to come forward? Because we, you know.
They have come forward many times.
So,
This is not, excuse me, Stan, this is not the venue to continue this discussion. Thank you, everyone, for bringing up these ideas and sharing your feelings, but this is not the venue for for that discussion to continue, Mr. President Pro Tem.
I'd like to know when we have them, when is the right venue?
I said if you want to bring it up at a regular council meeting or make it to an agenda item, I'd be willing to listen to this ugliness, or we could have a special meeting.
Okay, let's move on. The point taken that what Mr. Danley's brought up, and I appreciate, I do appreciate some of the give and take, because we get a chance to see both sides of that issue a little bit. But that being said, we would need to move on. Any other discussion on the village manager part of the budget? If not, we'll move on to the next one that's here, and that's the village clerk / treasurer.
I will let Sonia answer any questions you may have specifically on her budget. Just to let you know, the same personnel costs increases have been plugged into the village clerk and the other department budgets, 3% wage increase. Sonia, are there any highlights that you?
The big thing that fell off, was the codification costs from last year. So there was a decrease. I didn't put in the projected cost because we know the codification is going to be completed by this fiscal year. However, I have not received the invoice for that, so I don't have a projected cost for that amount at the time. I can tell you what we budgeted. I believe that we were gonna be within that budget range, but going forward, I have budgeted 5,000 going forward, but that's usually for, printing a lot of the publications, paper fees, such as that. I think 5,000 is relatively in line with what we normally would spend. Other than that, I don't have, if
Just-
anybody has any questions.
Just for my benefit, then, when we've moved to, I guess you mentioned copying costs and stuff, but we've moved to, or looking at, I guess we moved to monthly water bills.
So the printing, those will come out of the 260, for printing and.
General activities.
General
Okay.
activities, yep.
So that's,
These are more so ordinance postings,
Okay.
anything that we have to file, just different costs associated mostly with printing and for ordinance, for notices, public.
Public notices.
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
I noticed that the election charges, so I know we do have some election charges. I know the special election
Yes.
had a charge, and then there's some other election charges. So are we paying the township anything for elections at this point?
No, this was for this amount in here, the election supplies you've seen from the 23-24, that was a special election that they charged us for.
Yeah.
For the DDA. Other than that, no, they actually pay us a fee to have the elections here, $600 per election.
We only have to pay if it's a special election that has to do with village.
Yes.
Village election.
Right. So the general taxes we pay to the township pay for the election services and the
That's
the
out
little,
of 253.
Correct.
Is
Yeah.
those taxes.
and
yeah.
that's
Yes.
under the state law provides for them
State
to
law
pay for that. But
requires the
we actually
township
pay
clerk
for
to-
our election services through our general township taxes, correct?
Yes.
So we don't.
Only
there's
if it's a special election for the village do we have to pay.
no- Okay. And then where were the tax collection charges kept track? General
253.
fund?
It's under treasury, the next.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep,
Got
yep.
ahead of myself, okay.
What are considered the contractual charges?
Those were like the printing, so when we send the notices to the paper to print, the ordinances, any of the public notices that we need, public hearing notices, it just depending on the year, basically, depends on how much we print, we
Okay.
publish, if you would.
And so you're requesting a certain amount whether or not it will be used or
Yeah,
not?
usually it comes in less, but it just depends on the year.
So I have, and it's really more of a comment than a question, and it has to do with the contractual services also, and not specific to the clerk, but we've got almost $500,000 in the budget under what we call contractual services, and I counted them, there's 19, at least 19 different entries. Very difficult to try and ascertain what any of those is for. So just a comment, and I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but $500,000 in the budget for contractual services that is spread across 19 different entries, it's just,
It's
It's
usually
difficult.
specific to the fund or departments. So that's usually what you'll see charges, things that are specific to that department or fund. Like, you are correct, every fund does have contractual services as well as department. And it just kind of depends. There could be better GLs, like in general fund, you'll see things broken down by the bills, bill types, printing and publication, copier lease, waste, different things are broken down. It could be broken down a little bit better. Contract service is more kind of like a catch-all, just for whatever is not maybe recurring all the time.
If you,
No,
if you have questions on specific departments and their contractual services, a lot of times we have plugged in notes in the BSNA system for those
Yes.
line items. We're happy to print those out so that you've got a more detailed breakdown of what those contractual services are.
yeah, it's,
On several occasions, George, I asked for if I could get read-only access to the budget on the BSA system, so I could go in and read it, not write it, and search. And you can, I'm fairly conversant on the system, and I went through 6,000 journal entries looking at the things last year that you just described to me, and they're available. The difficulty for me as a council person is I have to figure out what I want to order, and then I've got to somehow explain it to Sonia, and then get her to generate me a report. And then the only way I can manage it is in an Excel format, because of the huge data volume and the size. These things are huge. And then the sorting, I can do, once I got the data, we can sort it. So the budget process, the thing I have difficulty with is I wish we could get a report at budget time, maybe later on, where, you could take all the, employee salaries and sort them, instead of having it look like the DPW director gets paid out of several accounts, and so we can't see what he makes or what his benefits are. So you would then give me a report on the one guy. I can't go ahead. Is there any way to sort this stuff where you could see like salaries,
Well-
We have a personnel cost sheet that we use when we do the budgeting that is by employee. So
I
it
would
has
just
their
by-
total costs.
Okay, so we can't do it sorted by the whole village, so I could see what the actual employee costs are, the health insurance costs, pension costs for everybody.
Yes.
One line across.
Yes.
Lined up.
That's exactly
And
what
that
our
way I could say
personnel
like,
sheet is.
63% of the village budget is employee costs. I would really like
Yep.
to see,
We can provide a copy
and
of
what
to council.
that would say to me is if I'm looking at my $2.5 million budget and I saw that $2 million is spent on employees and $500,000 is spent on vehicles, it would help me look at an area where I might be able to snip, a percent or something. So I could see what we're really looking at. And I'm gonna think that employee costs are the number one cost, right?
so I did those sorts.
Oh, look, you go.
It's, you're more than welcome to them.
Should be up on a big screen.
So do we need to sort through that right now, or we can,
Well, no, it's
Move
just
on.
like, it's just like here, it's, according to George, out of our $2.5 million budget, 2.34 million is employee cost, right?
It's huge, yeah.
So, when we,
which it is for any,
so this is, I just want to justify why employee costs come up. And I defend employee costs, but George is always looking at employee costs, and
I'm looking at contractual services too. I mean, that,
Is that included in
That one looks like this.
contractual services?
You know, there's some big ones and there's some real little ones, but like I said, there's 19 different contractual services entries.
This is a work session informal.
Yeah,
Just for my department, contractuals, I have different funds. Some of the contractual services are engineering. Some are broke out in engineering, but some of those, some of my funds don't have engineering in them, so some of those contractual services would be
Well, this-
engineering,
this doesn't even
tree trimming,
specify by
street
what
sweeping.
department.
If I have to get an actual plumber and, or an electrician to do something that we're not qualified to do, that would be contractual services for me. And some of those things, I know ahead of.
I'm not challenging him. I'm
No,
just
no, no,
saying, you know, I try and look at some of the bigger chunks and say, where's,
let's,
And like
We
Mr.
have a
McCleary said,
personnel worksheet
we put footnotes in
where-
these for the office, and we can absolutely print you out.
shows their total
That shows what
costs.
some of those
Every
are.
employee of the village, we can provide.
Cross-connection program, like 25 for the, you know, we make those notes. And you
I
can't see
really
them on
want to
this,
have
but
one
we can print that.
conversation, because I think there's valuable things being said, both sides, and as, so you're gonna, they're gonna still give you their breakdown.
We can, I can email.
Well, I'm
this
just saying, no, well, that was your question, though.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
breakdown like that, George.
We're going to provide our personnel cost
Okay.
sheet that
We
has
email to
everybody.
council.
All right, and then Wes was talking about the, you know, what fell under his contractual services, some of the more itemized things, which helps explain that, what pops under there, and it showed up on a graph.
So Wes, is yours are really apparent on your budget, contractual services, right? You rent equipment, right?
Tree trimmer, a plumber, electrician, engineer, review, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were on village clerk contractual services, but we branched out to all contractual services.
Yes.
Let's get back to anything else on the village clerk part. If not, we'll move on for information technology.
So this department covers all of our contractual services for our technology. So all of our software, and we have a number of software subscriptions that we use. It also includes, we have a line item for repair and maintenance. That's in case we have a computer that goes down, fails. We've had old computers that are, I think, 7, 8, 10 years old. Those are getting, in the office, are getting replaced right now, but, and then education and training, we plugged in $5,000 so that employees can get annual training on, start getting annual training on some of these software applications so that they maintain knowledge of how to use these different applications.
Any other comments on that section?
Software really, this is one of the biggest growth items in 4 years, huh?
So while
Gotta be. Yeah, it's kind of gotta be. doesn't it?
part of working smarter, not harder, and that is our GoGov system, which started out as the code enforcement system. We expanded that into permits so that we could document all of the permits we issue rather than just having hard copies in various files.
Yep.
We have, why am I drawing a blank on?
BSNA,
Our
That's a big
BSNA
chunk.
system is the big one.
VC3, that's our IT department.
Yep, VC3, and our agenda management system,
Civic Plus.
our
Website.
website, all of those are included in that line item.
Well, it's a lot of software. So,
Yes,
no,
a
I
lot of
get it.
software.
We're all paying monthly charges for software. I can't believe how many licenses the village has.
Required, yeah. If that's it on that, we'll go to, I think the next one was the finance and treasury.
I think for the most part, everything, there hasn't been anything substantial changes in this. The contractual services is our tax collection, and as Darwin had mentioned before, the DDA has to budget for their tax collection. But other than that, that would be the only variable that I would be concerned about, because this year, it was because we had to cover the DDA cost because it wasn't in the contract for the taxes. So that's why it ended up being, what it is. I budgeted 15, because normally we split out the cost, and that seems to be, I think we normally end up paying about 12. So I had budgeted 15. Of course, they'll send us the bill.
And keep in mind that our tax collection fees went up. The township increased those from
Last year.
15,000 a year total to 26,000 a year.
How do you split the clerk treasurer, so the clerk treasurer wages on both
Oh,
columns, do you guys split a percent?
No, so, if you look under 215, I have it labeled as deputy clerk treasurer, so those are just Lindsay's wages. So with deputy clerk treasurer, like the training, those are the training that she attends, only her. For me, I have clerk treasurer under 253, which is the treasury one, and all my wages, come out of here. You'll see the part-time, that's the part-time office staff. The social security includes mine and theirs. Same thing with medical, disability, and, you know, any of the office staff that may be on, the finance treasury side. But my wages are just the top one on 253-70100. It was easier just to keep just one line item, one person, one line item, another person.
I appreciate that, because figuring out the DPW directors is the hardest, is a real
Yeah,
annoying.
the part-time, you know, there's several part-time folks in the office, so, I did map out their hours, and how many days a week they work. So that is included in the part-time.
Could you clarify what the dues are?
Yes, so the dues are the treasurer and, my clerk dues. So every year we have to pay dues to be part of the MML program. So that's what the dues are. So I have to pay for to be a part of the MML, the MMTA, the treasurer, and I pay for the clerk one as well.
It's their,
It's just the annual.
it's their professional
Right.
Yeah, it's just the annual.
organizations
So
and
you
training.
get, the village pays for that? Reimburses you?
Pays,
Wish I had that.
yeah,
That's good,
yep.
that's good.
Any other comments, thoughts?
No, I'm not really resistant to paying for governmental training, because as we all know, it's so complex that I think a lot of this training has to do with you guys learning about applying the law to this stuff, right?
Well, and a lot of stuff we brought back from training, you know, last year you guys got the investment report because that was one of the things that I brought back from training, you know, and this year I'll get my certifications because I'll complete my third year. Next year, Lindsay and I will complete our clerk training, you know, and it makes things run smoother and, like you said, according to the law.
Yeah.
So, keeps us out of trouble.
Okay, community development, just sidewalks under that one. Is that,
So the community development line item, we had originally applied through CDBG for funding for a portion of the sidewalk improvement program. But we only received, at that time, we were only receiving $9,300 in CDBG funds.
General fund.
And now that's dropped to, and then the following year, it dropped to $7,000 for the village. Now CDBG at the county level is on a competitive basis, so we don't even receive an automatic allocation. But we determined that the $9,000 that we would use for the sidewalk program and having to meet the Davis-Bacon requirements, the prevailing wage requirements, would jack the costs up and would probably not make it beneficial to even use CDBG funds for the sidewalks. So you just approved reprogramming of the CDBG funds that we already have allocated to us, the $16,000 from sidewalks and Parks and Rec to code enforcement. And the chief has already completed all of his paperwork to be reimbursed for that. And we're getting ready to submit all of that paperwork, and we will be receiving $16,300 in reimbursement for code enforcement activities over the past 2 program years. But we don't anticipate doing anything with CDBG this upcoming year. We're going to wait until we have a large project that may make it worth our while to seek maybe $100,000 in funding through Oakland County and make it worth our while to consider the Davis-Bacon requirements.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. General activities?
So the general activities department accounts for a lot of our general operating costs. We have 2 employees that are budgeted in this department, our full-time office coordinator position and our part-time administrative assistant that we just hired not too long ago. Those 2 positions are budgeted in this department. We have our rubbish collection services, our municipal street lighting, those are all covered in this general activities budget. Let's see, what else? Village hall maintenance items, our postage, any repairs to, routine repairs to Village Hall. Dues and miscellaneous, this is where we have historically budgeted for the general memberships of the village, like in the Michigan Municipal League, and Clinton River Watershed Council and other general memberships that the village has, those come out of this budget as well.
Michael?
It just came to my mind, so the printing and publication costs for the monthly water bills, and then there was some talk by the DDA director or something, I don't know who it was, about having the newsletter going out monthly. And I thought we approved a quarterly newsletter, and I'm not looking to see all that 3 pages of colored stuff I got on every water bill. I think we're gonna stick with the quarterly newsletter.
That's our
Yeah.
plan. is
Yeah, I don't,
to-
and I just don't want this to become a vehicle for spending and advertising and all kinds of stuff, okay? This is-
Right.
Okay.
And
That's,
usually, the services that we provide are on a seasonal basis, so a quarterly newsletter makes more sense than
yeah,
a
it was a lot of
monthly.
paper. It's a tremendous amount of printing. So the street light, back to the street light. So I noticed this, when I go through the village, there are 2 kinds of street lights. There appear to be like your regular old DTE street lights, like in front of my house that I tried to get rid of. And then there are these decorative posts all up and down M24 illuminating the state highway. Okay, I see, very few people walking up and down the state highway at night. Okay, does it look good out there at night, the pretty street lights on M24? I don't know. But there's a lot of,
I think any
there's a lot,
streetlights
there's a
are
lot
ugly.
of, so.
I don't like light pollution.
Does this, so this bill for the street lighting, it's went from $47,000 4 years ago up to $54,000, which, considering other things, is a modest increase. Is that for all the regular DTE street lights in my neighborhood? I see a head shaking in the back.
That would be a good question for Wes to answer.
Okay, and so I don't see any meters on the poles. Do they like just calculate how many hours a day the lights are on and then just charge us?
I think so.
It's like the
It's
sewer,
pretty
the sewer
consistent.
thing where they guess,
Yeah.
okay. So
It's
that,
actually
but that's,
a pretty consistent bill.
okay. So that's just for the general street lighting in the neighborhoods.
I also budgeted a 3% increase, because I know utilities are going up. I'm sorry.
Don't tell DTE that.
So the decorative streetlights
Yes.
in the downtown area, those were installed by the DDA. And they pay to replace those. Do they also pay for the electricity?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are DDA responsibilities.
Okay, that comes up, like streetlights are always coming up, and we discuss them regularly. So, these ones are totally maintained and operated by DTE, and they include our charges, so we don't have to maintain them, change the bulbs, or do anything.
No, it's about,
I like that.
$4,500 a month is usually
Okay.
what it is.
I like that.
And just for my clarification, under this is website software also, how is that different from the information technology?
This is a.
We cut that down. We used to budget for the website, under website and software. We used to budget in general activities. We've moved most of those costs to the information technology department. You'll see 3 years ago, the 4865, that was the website contract. But we moved those costs to information technology.
Okay.
It doesn't look like you spent much on it anyway.
No, I was just
Just a
curious
placeholder
what
amount or
the
something?
difference was, yeah.
No, I agree with you.
This is the INO's
Yeah.
bill.
Any other,
Oh, yeah, Sonia's telling me this is for the website security,
oh,
Bill.
website security software that we have and services through INOs.
And then the pension, the pension, is the legacy pension in there too? Is that where the legacy pensions are?
I do
Yes.
believe so, yeah. That's
Okay, I don't
why
want to
it's
get
so
into
high.
discussion, I just
Yep.
want to make sure I know remember where everything is.
Keep in mind, on the topic of pensions, keep in mind, we used to provide a defined benefit pension system to employees.
I shouldn't have said it.
That went away.
Shouldn't have said a damn thing, sorry.
That went away in 2000, between 2007 and 2010. We only have one active employee who is in the DB system still. The rest of us are on a defined contribution program where you pay a set percentage of employees' wages into a defined contribution program. There's no legacy costs attached to that, so you pay that as long as employees are working for you, and once they leave, you are not paying another dime into that program, and you have no legacy costs for that employee. So that change was made about 15 years ago, 16 years ago.
any other thoughts, comments?
Just, when the solid waste collection, when we do that, do you guys bid that out to different companies? Or is there only one vendor, one source vendor available?
We have the option of bidding it out. We have chosen over the past, I want to say 4 or 5 contracts to continue with the current contractor, which has changed hands over time. They've been bought out by other companies. But because of the level of satisfaction with the services that we've been receiving from that contractor, the council has opted to continue extending contracts with the current waste hauler. But we can always bid it out if we decided to do so.
Are you able to provide me the information of what the, like, per household cost is in comparison to the township's buildings?
I don't know what theirs is, but we can provide ours.
Yes, actually, if you can give me a moment, I can pull it up.
Sure, and that's, people, always ask me questions about the township this and the township that. And so like with the fire department, we're getting a good deal from the township at the current situation. So, does the garbage, just might as well get the date out now while we're looking at it.
I mean, I don't know what the township's contract is, but what their dollar amount is.
I
I
have
can
a-
only
my-
tell you what ours is.
My son has a bill, but I don't have access.
One thing I wanted to point out, I do remember on TV stating that If we continued up till 6, we would be live the whole time. After that, I think there's another meeting that will take precedence, just an FYI.
And that was just this meeting
I think
for
it was
us?
this one.
So our, for the current fiscal year, households pay $18.56 per month.
For the village?
And that includes rubbish collection, yard waste collection, and recycling.
Okay. Why does that seem cheap, Darwin?
It is cheap because
It is.
The township is more than
I
that?
didn't realize it
Well-
was that.
I don't know what the township is. I just know that our residents come, they would be probably paying 2 times or more for this service if they had to contract on their own.
And-
For the upcoming year, it goes from $18.56 per household per month to $19.21 per household per month.
Yeah, because
I think that's a
our high
3%
density, there's
Yeah.
so many houses.
Yes.
In the township, they might drive a mile to pick somebody's garbage
That
up,
all
right?
factors into it.
Yeah, so the
Fuel
high
costs
density
and
pays
everything.
off in this instance, so,
Yep.
great.
The density of the village definitely factors into the contract cost.
Okay.
All right, any other thoughts, comments there? No. All right, then I think we're looking at the planning and zoning is next up.
So the planning and zoning department is pretty self-explanatory. This is where we account for McKenna's services, both in terms of handling planning and zoning permits, handling the planning commission and board of zoning appeals activities, working with developers on development projects and doing site plan and zoning reviews. The wages for the recording secretary for planning commission and board of zoning appeals comes out of this budget. And any special projects that we have the planners doing, for example, you'll see for other services, we had $21,000 in the current fiscal year because we had them working on the property, village property inventory and mapping. So if we have special projects, that's also budgeted in this department.
So the planning services here are all, there's no revenue associated with these?
Yes, there is.
Is there like
So-
fees or,
So the expenses are accounted for here,
yeah,
but a lot of those expenses that deal with site plan reviews.
yes, that's my exact
With
question.
developers, we charge escrow fees.
Those are up in the
and then-
revenue under, they're in the revenue section of the general,
Are they balance sheet accounts or?
Yeah, they're behind the
balance sheet
scenes.
accounts?
They're behind the scenes.
they're not in this general revenue somewhere buried in this,
So we charge
Fees.
any of those fees for
the-
engineering, legal, or planning
So is the
back to
revenue
those escrow.
in the fees, is it buried in the fees collected in the general revenue?
Some are. So like if you submit for a permit, for example,
Yeah.
GoGov permit, those are in, I think it's 607, 101, 0000.
So general fund.
Yep, the 607 fund. The escrow, so the developers come in, they make a payment, which will cover the cost. It's basically an in and out fund. So they pay for the engineering review, and any meetings, anything that goes, they have to pay for those.
So the next question is, how much of this is just straight out the village pays for? Like, what is it, plan, so the village specific plan?
These
They were not reimbursed
costs
for it,
are
yeah.
village costs.
Yes.
But all the work that our planning and zoning team do for developers is the village does not pay for it. We charge back against them on
To the-
That's
escrow
right.
deposits.
Are those costs included in this dollar amount, or are they canceled out?
Those are separate.
Okay, so
Yes.
these are our actual
These are our
costs
actual
for the
costs.
services.
For
Planning
our
services.
office, our monthly office
Retainer.
services,
Yep.
the retainer, the virtual office hours that they provide,
Now-
and again, any special projects that we have them do.
Now, didn't we used to have a part-time person that did this?
We did.
And was that, what did that look like? Was that why did we move to a consultant planning service that for 104,000?
Because when we had the part-time employee doing it, number one, that person did not have formal training in planning and zoning.
Yeah.
They did a good job. We had them when I first came on the last time as manager. But then, starting in, I would say, 2014, 2015, after we got Lockhart's Barbecue, that's when we started to see a huge increase in interest in commercial development in the downtown. So it wasn't working for us anymore. We couldn't keep up with the workload, and that's when we had to increase the services that we received from McKenna. We've always had McKenna. In fact,
But
I think
those-
we're McKenna's first client.
But those legacy people, I groom them and get somebody cheaper. I have no concerns over, legacy anything. So out of this $104,000, a lot of those McKenna project costs for those buildings are all paid for with those buildings. This is strictly overhead for the village, $104,000 for stuff like our master plan, the planning and zoning meetings where they come, and the management. This is just for direct management of planning activities associated with the village operations.
Yes.
It doesn't have anything to do with the projects. The
Correct.
developers pay all those planning costs themselves.
Correct.
So this is something that we could put on the list to look at, to maybe, farm it out to the township, or, see if there's any, 20-something to cut. This would be an area I would look at.
We could.
We have extensive planning services and master plans for a community that's fully developed and located, has a population of 2,900 people. We have the same, documentation as a huge community.
Actually, we will be soliciting proposals because the council adopted a policy that all contractual services have to be reviewed every 5 years.
Yes.
So this is on that schedule according to when we signed their last contract.
Yeah, so I would like that to go on the list of acts, just things to look at. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments on this part? On our list, it says insurance and bonds are next, but on the detailed sheet, it's Parks and Recreation. So let's do the Parks and Rec.
So this is the department that we account for all of our park and recreation activities. The lifeguards come out of this budget.
This is actually scheduled for Wednesday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that,
First-
Oh,
first-
I'm
now
sorry.
it's going down.
First item up on
Thank you.
Wednesday.
Wes was going to go into more detail on it, but generally,
Skip.
all of the Parks and
That's
Rec
fine.
activity is
Yeah.
budgeted in.
So then,
Let's move bonds.
my mistake, then insurance and bonds.
This is for our general liability insurance through the Michigan Municipal League Liability and Property Pool.
Is that bad,
That's,
Ken?
actually, I think that's the only thing in this, are the costs for MML's insurance.
That's only gone up like 2% a year or something.
Yeah,
That's been
it's
like
pretty
the
good.
cheapest thing we've
Yeah.
got so far, is insurance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
And then we get dividends back for liability if they generate a certain amount of excess income, they share that back with the pool members. Also with workers' comp, they do the same thing. So we get checks every year back from them. If you look in the general fund revenues, you'll see that we get probably $6,000-7,000 back a year.
All right. No questions on that. We'll move on to contractual services, legal, accounting, and engineering.
This is where we account for our audit fees, our engineering, general engineering services, our legal services. So those are all accounted for in here. I did note that I budgeted a little extra on the legal fees for the upcoming year because we have a new legal firm working with us. I don't have any history as far as the billing. I have noticed that there's been some increase in the fees, so I want to make sure that we try to accommodate a little bit extra in the costs, but I'm monitoring that. If I have concerns with it, I'll be coming back to council and talking to you about it. But I do want to give the new firm a chance to, get settled with all of our business and then see what our average monthly bills are.
Well, the low bidder was out there for you guys to decide on, and we didn't hear that, did we?
Anyway,
I'm smiling
no,
15 minutes.
and so is I.
at you. Low
After 6, you can discuss that all you want.
Conversation.
Yeah, all right, what's left?
But just that the last item there, the OPEB valuation, what is that?
That's OPEB, our other post-employment benefits. That's our annual actuarial valuation report that we have to have done for OPEB. So OPEB is basically our retiree health insurance program. And we have certain liabilities under that program. Those liabilities have been decreasing because we eliminated retiree health insurance for employees. At the same time, right around the same time, we eliminated the defined benefit pension system. So those liabilities keep going down every year, but the state requires us to be at least 10% funded in our OPEB liabilities. We are currently at 22% funding, so we meet the state requirements. We exceed the state requirements, actually. And every year we contribute 10% toward those costs into the fund. And so that's part of the reason why our liabilities continue to decrease. And then we have investment income that also helps to offset those liabilities.
Right, thank you. Any other questions, comments on that? Next one up, transfers out.
So our transfers out are basically from general fund to the public works fund to balance out public works operations. So whatever they don't generate in other revenues like cemetery, foundations and openings and closings or other revenues, general fund has to subsidize public works operations. When I first came in 2022, the Public Works Fund was down to about $20,000 in fund balance. So we've worked to bring that fund balance up, but now it's up at $180,000. So to bring the Public Works Fund balance back down, I've decreased the general fund's contribution to Public Works for the upcoming year by $40,000. So we are going to start to draw down from some of the fund balance in the Public Works Fund. That's why you see the decrease in the general fund contribution to Public Works Fund. And I monitor these fund balances in Public Works and Police every year to see if we need to decrease general fund's contribution. So that's why you see the decrease with Public Works. The Police Fund, we are proposing a transfer out from general fund to police of $503,000. The current year it was $500,000. And we are going to be offsetting the remaining additional revenues that the police department needs if they want to, if council wants to fully fund all of the needs of the police department, and the chief will get into those when he presents his budget. We'll need to have a general fund contribution of 503,000. The rest will be an increase in the Headley override millage to make up that difference. But we're also going to be talking about getting rid of the police millages altogether and going to special assessments. And we'll talk more about that, but if we do that, it is a benefit all the way around from the analysis that I've done, so.
I don't want to lose my place in the spreadsheet. What's the police, what's the estimated approved budget for the police this year?
For this year?
Yep.
1.1 million, and the proposal for next year is 1.3 million.
All right. So roughly 46% of the police budget is paid for from the general fund.
Yes.
So the police millage currently pays slightly more than half. I don't want to exaggerate these kind of figures, I'll make sure they're very accurate. That's how it's accurate.
Yep.
So the police millage only captures 55% of the police expense.
Well, we also have a contract with DDA for about 103,000.
Yeah,
So
so no,
that-
that's my next
That's
question.
another part of the revenue.
So the police millage pays for currently 55% of the police millage. The village is paying for 45% of the millage. And how much of the police millage does the DDA capture total?
The current year, they're capturing about 123,000.
That's total, entire capture, not the difference between the capture and the,
That's the total
Okay.
capture.
okay.
And then the contract is for 103.
So they capture 123,000 of the village police millage. And then they give us back 103 for special policing in the DDA district.
Yeah, let me correct that.
You might be, the numbers don't seem,
I think they capture 113,000.
yeah,
And the contract is 106.
106,
103.
okay,
103.
okay.
106 proposed for the upcoming year.
And then they give us back the 106,000 to pay for their share of the police services in the village, correct?
Yes.
Trying to
we
trap-
pro-
I'm
We
trying to
provide
trap.
special police services for the downtown area for them under that contract.
Right, so you're giving, the DVDA is giving the money back to the village from the TIF capture so we can use it for police services in the village.
Yes, most of that for a dedicated police officer for the downtown area. About 80-some thousand of
And
that,
there's a police officer that just stays downtown.
primarily for downtown.
I think the next thing on that is the capital projects fund.
Capital projects transfer out is $17,000, and that's to cover the cost of repairing the ceiling and also replacing one of the AC units here at Village Hall.
What AC unit? What are you even talking
The one-
about? Okay, yeah, in your office, yeah, nice in there, right? What, did you get a bid on the fixing the ceiling, or you just like figured nice around 17 grand, sounded like a good number, or what's the?
Wes has been working with Oakland County Historic Preservation to determine what needs to be done with this. So Wes, is that where you got the number from?
Yeah, he's getting provided a full report, so when we get that report, we'll present.
So they provided an estimate of what that would cost.
Yeah.
Then, moving on, escrow. Is that what- is it the escrow fund?
That's good.
The escrow funds,
What page is that?
this fund is slowly being closed out because the state did not want us to this is the 701, right?
Yep.
What page is that
This-
up there? I'm sorry.
It's at the end of the budget, end of the detail.
It's just on that
So
list.
page,
27?
The packet?
Or a packet, page 27?
It's the printout page.
it's like the second to last page in the budget detail.
I'm looking
The
at the
second to
computer,
last page of the printout.
so I gotta look at the printout now.
I don't know, I'm looking at the printout.
So this
Page
fund is
40
being closed
49
out.
of the packet,
Huh?
49 of the
Thank you, Eric.
PDF.
Young people, thank you, young people.
This fund is being closed out. The state did not want us to maintain the 701 fund. They wanted us to roll the escrow activity into the general fund. And so this is now being accounted for through balance sheet accounts. They said that it wasn't necessarily appropriate to be having an escrow fund like this. So we're closing out this fund. You'll see that we still have a little over $5,000 in the fund that we're gonna have to determine what we're doing with at some point. But you will not be seeing any more activity in this fund.
And then I think the last thing on our list at 6:02 is the OPEB trust fund, and did you already kind of covered that?
We already covered this. What you'll see in here is our investment income. We don't budget anything on investment income, but we wait until we get the actual valuation report from our actuaries. And then they'll give us what the investment income is. And so we wait until we get those figures, and then it shows, we post those and they show us an activity, but we don't normally budget anything for it.
Okay.
And then what that does is that, like I said before, the investment income goes into our fund balance for the OPEB liabilities. And it decreases our overall liabilities for the fund.
I think that's the last thing on our list for today. And then our next meeting is Monday at 4. And we'll hit those things. Any comments, questions? Yes, Eric?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great just going through this for the first time, you know, you get a real sense of appreciation for, you know, a lot of efficiency and dollars being squeezed and scrutinized part of the process. And I think, you know, where I'm coming from, I guess I should speak to, every dollar we save is, you know, a dollar that we don't maybe ask from residents. So I think it's all just part of the scrutiny process. But the big picture, what I'm seeing is life's getting more expensive, right? We all feel it. Look at the cost of cars and everything's kind of going up over the years.
But if we go with the special assessment for police,
Right. There were a
we-
few that, yeah.
property owners are actually going to see a little bit of a decrease in what they're
Nice.
paying over the current year. Rather than a millage increase next year, if we go with the special assessment, they'll actually be paying a little less. And the DDA actually comes out a little bit ahead from a financial standpoint. But what ends up hurting is the public infrastructure fund.
Right.
So-
If only we
But we'll
could,
talk about that in more detail when we talk about police.
What was glaringly apparent to me this session for the first time in 5 years was the total static, despite my constant preaching about this, is glaringly aware of the lack of income growth in the community.
yeah.
The village revenues have been stagnant for a proven 4 years, and I didn't really realize that they were stagnant, that there was no income growth in the village in 4 years, none.
If only there was a way.
Now, if you look at my neighbors and the houses and the property, even though the millage goes down, our tax value's gone way up. You guys have all experienced that, I'm sure, right? And so even though my taxes have gone way up and I'm paying more, the village isn't getting the money somehow. And I just don't understand.
Taxes aren't going up because of millage increases. The millages have remained the same for many years.
Don't confuse village with taxes.
The taxes go up because the value of your property goes
That's
up.
what I just said.
Yeah.
And so the village is getting no more money, even though you're
Right.
trying to keep the millage rate down and lower it every year. The village isn't getting any more money, so you're doing a good job.
All right, anybody else have a comment? Otherwise, we'll
Great
To adjourn.
move to adjourn, and do I hear a second?
Support.
And all those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and opposed, no.
Thank you,
All
everybody.
right, thank you,
I
Darrell.
think we might be giving
Thank you,
raises
Sonia.
out this year.